On November 11th, 2025, a Turkish Air Force C-130 Hercules disappeared from radar over eastern Georgia. The aircraft, call sign TUAF-543, had been en route from Azerbaijan back to Turkey. There were 20 personnel on board, all of them lost. No distress call was made. No survivors were found. Let's see what we've got so far. The aircraft was a Lockheed C-130EM Hercules, tail number 68-01609, and was built in 1968. This particular airframe had served for decades before being transferred to the Turkish Air Force in 2010. It was operated by the 12th Air Base Command in Kayseri, a unit responsible for transport and logistics missions across the region. On that morning, TUAF-543 was completing a short repositioning flight from Ganja, Azerbaijan, back to Turkey. On board were Turkish soldiers who had taken part in recent joint activities with Azerbaijani forces, many returning home after Victory Day events. The route was simple: depart Ganja, fly northwest across eastern Georgia, and then continue west into Turkish airspace. The weather was favorable. Reports from both Azerbaijani and Georgian authorities describe clear skies, light winds, and good visibility, ideal flying conditions for a transport aircraft. The C-130 climbed normally to flight level 240, about 24,000 feet, and leveled off. At that altitude, the crew would have been flying on autopilot, monitoring engine parameters, fuel balance, and navigation. Below them lay the Kakheti region, a landscape of rolling hills and open plains near the Azerbaijan-Georgia border. For experienced military crews, this was familiar terrain. Nothing about the environment or weather hinted at danger. At approximately 10:49 UTC, air traffic controllers lost contact with TUAF-543. The aircraft's radar return disappeared suddenly and without any radio message. There were no reports of communication difficulties or emergency procedures in progress. It was as if the aircraft had simply ceased to exist. To understand what happened next, we have to reconstruct the flight's final half hour using data and witness accounts. TUAF-543 departed Ganja Airport at 10:19 UTC. ADS-B tracking shows a normal climb to 24,000 feet, maintaining course westward across the Georgian border. For roughly 30 minutes, all readings, speed, altitude, and heading were stable. Then, at 10:49 UTC, the signal vanished near the town of Sighnaghi, about 5 kilometers from the Azerbaijan border. Within minutes, residents in the surrounding area saw something unusual in the sky. Several witnesses described hearing a loud bang, followed by the sight of an aircraft descending steeply, trailing dark smoke. Video later confirmed what they saw: a large C-130 inches, a near flat spin, breaking apart as it fell. Separate sections of the fuselage, tail, and wings could be seen detaching before the aircraft struck the ground and exploded. Flight tracking data supports these observations. The final seconds show a vertical descent rate exceeding 19,000 feet per minute, far beyond what a C-130 could sustain in controlled flight. That kind of descent implies a catastrophic loss of structural integrity, possibly beginning with a major component failure, such as a wing spar, tailplane, or the rear fuselage frame. Once such a failure occurs at cruising altitude, recovery is nearly impossible. Investigators have not reported any signs of external interference, no radar indications of nearby aircraft, and no evidence of a missile or explosion from outside the airframe. All current findings suggest an internal, mechanical, or structural failure. There are also indications that the crew may have been aware of a problem in the final moments. Analysts examining descent data noted patterns consistent with fuel dumping or valve release. That could suggest the pilots were trying to reduce onboard fuel, either to lower fire risk or to lighten the aircraft for an emergency landing. But whatever action they took, the sequence developed too fast. No mayday was heard. What followed was impact in open terrain near Sighnaghi, scattering debris across several hundred meters. By late afternoon, Georgian rescue teams located the wreckage. There were no survivors. Once recovery teams finished on-site work, investigators focused on whether the accident began as a sudden structural failure. The area of interest here is the aircraft's age. After more than half a century of service, the metal fatigue process becomes critical. Even with careful maintenance, repeated cycles of pressurization, vibration, and load changes can slowly weaken critical joints and frames. If a hidden crack propagated suddenly, perhaps in a wing root or bulkhead, it could have led to a rapid breakup at altitude. That suspicion is not theoretical. Several well-documented C-130 accidents worldwide show how a single hidden defect can rapidly destroy an airframe at altitude. For example, Tanker 130C-130A, Walker, California, June 17, 2002. A civilian-converted C-130 used as a firefighting air tanker suffered an in-flight separation at the wing to fuselage attach point center wing region. Video and the subsequent NTSB investigation showed fatigue cracks at the wing attach, lap joint that propagated until the wing folded and separated, a classic aging structure failure after many cycles. That accident prompted a broad review of center wing box susceptibility on older Hercules conversions. Tanker 82, earlier C-130A case, Pear Blossom, California, August 13, 1994. Investigators found evidence consistent with fatigue-driven wing separation on another retired military C-130 used as a tanker. The case later fed into safety recommendations for life limit tracking and more aggressive fatigue inspections on older hulls. Yankee 72 KC 130TU, Marine Corps, Mississippi, July 10, 2017. This was a different mechanical trigger but produced a similar mid-air breakup. An improperly repaired and corroded propeller blade liberated in cruise, struck internal structure and control surfaces, and initiated a rapid chain of failures that led to the forward fuselage separating and the aircraft breaking apart. The Marine Corps investigation blamed maintenance, overhaul failures, and led to fleet-wide inspections and propeller overhauls. Those precedents show two recurring themes relevant to TUAF 543. 1. Aging structure, repeated pressurization, flight loads and environmental corrosion, concentrate damage in the wing box, attach areas and lap joints. And 2. Single-point mechanical failures, a failed propeller blade, gearbox part, or other large rotating component can produce shock and secondary structural failures that look identical to a pure wing fracture in wreckage distribution. Both pathways can produce the videos and tracking signature we've seen: rapid descent, fragments separating, and large pieces of airframe impacting over a wide area. From a safety and fleet management perspective, the lessons are clear and practical. Accident history shows that operators of legacy Hercules types must do more than routine calendar maintenance. Targeted non-destructive inspection of center wing boxes and lap joints, strict life limit tracking of structural elements, corrosion mitigation programs, and rigorous overhaul or traceability of propeller and gearbox components are all essential, and when deficiencies are found, grounding or phase replacement of suspect airframes is the prudent course. The Turkish order for newer C-130J airframes and earlier modernization programs address many of these risks, but they don't immediately remove older hulls from service. That gap is exactly where rigorous, evidence-based inspections will matter most. At this stage, the investigation into TUAF 543 is ongoing. Black box data and detailed forensic examination will be needed to determine whether this was an internal structural fatigue, a failed rotating component, cargo or a cargo restraint issue, or an unrelated cause. But the historical record shows how quickly a localized failure can cascade. We may never know exactly what the crew of TUAF 543 saw or felt in their final seconds, but their loss reminds us that even the most trusted aircraft flown by experienced professionals can reach the limits of time and endurance. Until the full report is released, we can only learn from what's known and remember those 20 who served and lost their lives in duty. Fly safe, everyone. I'll keep you updated when new findings are released.